This build is doing fine. The reason I can be a little bit risky with it is because I've just leveled up, so I don't really care if I die and lose the experience from this, because I'm not that close to another level. Because you lose experience when you die, so you only really want to be taking risks when you're at the start of a level, so you're not going to lose an absolute ton of stuff. Do you think losing XP in maps is good for the game? No. I think there should be a penalty, but it should not be experience loss. Experience loss is a... So, someone described it on Reddit really well. The game at higher levels is not hard, it's frustrating. People don't mind hard games. Hard games are good. Take, for example, the original Dark Souls design of making you run all the way back to the bosses when you die. There's a huge amount of run back to a boss. Then take the Elden Ring design of just sticking the respawn point outside the front of the boss. People want to take on hard challenges. People want to play difficult things. They genuinely do. What they don't want to be is frustrated. So when you die and you lose all of your remaining portals and you lose your health, that's frustrating. We need to find a way to make the game hard without being frustrating. You don't want a feels bad mechanic. Let's say, for example, that you die on a map, and what you're then allowed to do is use the remaining portals you have to go back into the map and loot whatever you had missed. That way, you can take a couple of risks, but you know that if you die, you're losing out on any future loot. Because at the minute, there's just effectively one portal. Unless you want to return to town and sell some stuff, there's basically one portal. That's what you get. Like that. See, I died just there because of a ground explosion, and I'm going to miss out on the Regal Orb, the Wide Belt, the Skill Gem, whatever else would be there. I've got to resurrect in the hideout, and you'll notice that my experience has now gone back to empty. We're looking at the bar on the bottom of the screen just there. So level 79, I have gained 0 experience to the next level, and I have lost the juiced map that I made, and now I must effectively start again. I don't mind games being difficult. I like games being difficult. What I don't want is games to feel bad to lose at. When I lose, I like to think, okay, let's go again. When I lose to a boss in Elden Ring, I get that feeling of, I'm a bit better, I can go again. When I lose to a high-level boss or a high-level map in this game, in Path of Exile 2, I want to quit the game. I just want to close the program and go and do something else. And any mechanic that makes a player want to close your game is not great. Take, for example, the Citadel bosses. You could travel all the way to a Citadel boss, and you get one chance at that Citadel boss. One. If you die to that Citadel boss, you don't get to try again. You have to spend another 10, 20, sometimes even 30 hours trying to find another Citadel. I would like it if you could die to the Citadel boss and keep trying again and again and again and again and again, and then when you beat it, you get rewards based on how many tries it took you to beat it. Does that sound like an extreme idea? So why have I switched back to my sorceress like this? Well, I like playing the Gemling Legionnaire. What I don't like is the brutal setback that dying on it gets me. Which is why everyone is using the Spark Mage to level and grind for items, because you just die less. That's what it is. People are finding grinding builds that die less to create builds they actually want to play, which are riskier. It is the kind of gameplay that actually demands you play slightly safer. Now, I'm sure people will say, oh yeah, it's a trade-off between power and defense. Someone said to me once that ranged characters are better than melee characters on account of the fact that they can stay far away. And that's not necessarily ranged characters, that's just the distance you can be from an enemy. Because a ranged character can still play as melee if it benefits them. and a melee character cannot play as ranged if it benefits them. There is a passive skill node that gives rangers more damage the closer they are to an enemy. So a ranged class has the option of being close or far away. A melee class does not have that option. You glad you didn't try the citadels? So if you found a citadel on a map, you've obviously been playing it for a while. It takes a hell of a long time to find. If you find a citadel and you fail at the boss, which you probably will do because they're bloody hard and they will one-hit you, you can't try again. That's it. This is another reason why one-hit builds are so popular. It's one of the reasons that I'm building this right now. I actually don't want to try and take on the mechanics of a citadel boss, because I know the longer I spend in that boss fight, the greater the chance of me eventually dying. So, statistically, the best thing for me to do is kill the bosses in as few hits as possible. That's it. Being punished for failure is okay. However, the way that I see the design, and again, I'm not a game designer, I don't run or own Path of Exile 2. But the way that I see game design is this. Let's say that you are at a certain stage, an amount of experience, an amount of items, whatever you need, and you go into a boss fight, and you lose. What should we then reset the player to? What should the loss be? Because what the loss used to be, within arcade terms, was put more money in, try and play the game again. If you go into a boss fight and you use a couple of items and then you die, do we respawn you outside the boss room with those items? Some people would say yes, some people would say no. Do we respawn you far away from the boss room with the items or without the items? Do we respawn you far away from the boss room one level lower than you were when you tried? How much punishment do we give the player for failure? Now, me personally, I think that what you should lose is the time you have spent trying the boss, because that already has a value. Everyone's time has a value. If you are in a boss fight for 10 minutes and you die and then you respawn, what you have lost is those 10 minutes. What you have gained within those 10 minutes is knowledge of the game, knowledge of the boss, skill within the game. So yeah, you actually don't feel that you've lost those 10 minutes as much as invested those 10 minutes in your skill of the game. This is exactly why Dark Souls is considered such a good game. You can, with enough investment and enough skill, actually beat the game at level 1. Same with Elden Ring, you can do it with no hitting. This is because the time invested in the game is not removed from you when you die. It is simply invested within your own skill. Let's take this to Path of Exile 2. When you die past level 70 in a map in Path of Exile 2, you lose all the items that you didn't pick up on the map, even if you can see them, which is a very feels-bad mechanic. You lose the map as well. You can't go back into it. You also lose 10% experience. So, however, if you were, 15% of the way to the next level, you're now down to 5. This disincentivizes dying. This basically says, hey, don't die. No matter what you do, don't die. But then you've got Rarity as an item find mechanic on items. I don't think I've got anything with Rarity on it. See if I can find something with it on. I don't think I'm wearing any. Oh, there we go, my helmet. 12% increased rarity of items found. So you need to balance how much damage you're doing, how much defense you've got, and how much rare item find you have. So if you have a build that can one-shot a final boss, it makes sense to take no defense at all and just build up an absolute load of rarity and a load of offense. That's what you need to do. This is your farming build, but you don't use rarity found. What makes it a farming build? I haven't got to the end of the game yet. I'm not doing maps with this character yet. Once I get to the end of the game with maps, all this character will be is maxed out damage and rarity find. That's all it will be. Now, one thing that I have come to resent about defense is if you can be one shot at maximum defense, what is the point of defense? If you can just be literally one hit killed immediately, why don't you just go with maximum damage? Because that way, the quicker the enemy dies, the better. And unfortunately, That is what a lot of builds are now going for. Now, again, I must say I love this game. I think the first 3 acts of this game are phenomenally good. The end game most definitely needs tweaking. There's a lot of tweaks that need to be done to the end game. It's not bad, and again, it is early access, which is what we're trying to discover where the tweaks need to go to. That's the kind of whole point of us playing. But it right now, it's full of feels bad mechanics. You definitely don't want someone playing your game, dying, and thinking, well, I'm done. And unfortunately, at the minute, that is happening a lot. That's the problem. I do not mind hard games. I do mind unfairly punishing games. Let's say that you have an hour to play, and this is what I think a lot of people forget. The vast majority of people don't have a hell of a lot of free time to play video games. I'm very lucky in that I do have free time. It's my job. And if we were at college or uni, you guys probably have free time as well. If you're unemployed, you've got free time. Although, again, most of that time it's not exactly free. Being unemployed is remarkably stressful. Most people don't have 4 to 5 hours a day to play a game. They would like to, but they don't. So if they play a game for 3 hours, and they have fun and they enjoy it, and then they die, and they lose 3 hours worth of progress, while in a way, yes, they have still gained 3 hours worth of knowledge, because we were talking about the formation of knowledge earlier, is the gaining of 3 hours worth of knowledge worth knowing that you have to do that 3 hours again? Is it worth knowing that you lost the progress you made with the limited time that you have? I feel at the minute the end game at least, is balanced for players like me. It's fair for people like me who can spend hundreds of hours grinding the same thing. If I make a mistake that costs me 30 hours worth of gameplay, I'm just thinking, oh, that's like 3 days. If someone who plays an hour a day makes a mistake that costs them 30 hours worth of gameplay, they're going to need to grind for a month to get back to where they were. And that knowledge alone of do you want to do the same thing for a month, that puts people off. Now, of course, Path of Exile is a game designed about restarting again and again and again and again and again. You know, every time there's a league, we start again. You're not meant to get to level 100. But it still sucks when you lose stuff that you put time into. What is the consequence of dying in Path of Exile 1? I'm actually not sure. I'm not up to date with that right now. Someone in chat will know. I mean, as long as you are enjoying the process of playing the game, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Enjoying the process of playing is great. The problem is when the process of playing gets kind of somewhat overshadowed by the knowledge that you must do a lot of work again. That's what irritates people. And it's also why one-shot builds end up becoming the meta. Why do the graphics look like garbage? First of all, it's because I'm playing it at 600 pixels tall. But second, maybe it's because I started playing video games in the early 90s. But to me, even at 600 pixels, this still looks kind of fine. Maps should be 3 lives and plus or lives modifiers. Yeah, that could be cool. People used to complain that maps having 6 portals effectively meant you had what they called the 6 portal defense. If you died, you had to try it again. You had 6 times on every map. And I'm thinking, okay, do that. What's wrong with that? Someone actually asked Jonathan why maps still have 6 portals if you're going to lose them after 1 death. And he replied, because there were 6 portals in the marketing materials. 6 portals was the best glass cannon defense, without a doubt. And someone said to me, yeah, but with 6 portals, that just means everyone will be playing a glass cannon. Everyone's playing a glass cannon with 1. You're not going to change the meta of the builds by giving people more or less portals. Right now, defense is effectively worthless. by saying, hey, you can try again, it will increase build variety. Right now, build variety is, can I kill the boss in 1 second before he does any mechanics? Because chances are I can't survive the mechanics. If the way to beat your game is to skip mechanics. Like, I've literally had people say to me, hey, the best way to beat Geonor in Cruel is to burn him down before he does the special ice attack. I mean, okay, so your solution to the game is to do so much damage you don't have to engage with the mechanics because the mechanics are so inherently punishing. That doesn't sound great. That's not the ideal. What was I building? I've got 1 point to put into something. Where was it going? What were we doing with the points? Hang on, let me just test something. So increased energy shield, 1415. Does that increase that? No, it does not. But does it increase anything else? No. Maybe we want to go with life. That is maximum mana as energy shield. Okay, energy is 1827. That's good. That's a good amount of energy shield to have. Become strong enough to skip part of the game. Having one portal has... Yeah, that's also another good point. Having one portal doesn't really affect the extremely rich, powerful players. It punishes people doing off-meta things. It punishes a casual player who says, hey, you know what? I'm going to make my own build. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to make my own choices. If you want to encourage people to do non-meta things, you have to not punish them for doing non-meta things. There is a reason that everyone is copying there's a reason that I'm doing this right now. It's because if I don't do this, the punishments outweigh the rewards. Right now, dying is more punishing than not dying. It makes you reluctant to take on bosses. If you discover a Citadel boss and you know that you only get one chance at it, what's the first thing you're going to do? Google it or YouTube it. That's what you're going to do. If you know that you get one chance at this difficult boss, you're going to watch a guide on how to do it. You're not going to learn by playing, which is super annoying. I think they were going for kind of like Dark Souls Elden Ring. But I don't think they understood that Dark Souls Elden Ring is punishing. But it's punishing in the moment. It's not punishing for failure. It actually, I try to explain to someone, it actually doesn't punish you for failing. It lets you try as much as you possibly want. It's difficult to succeed, yes. But when you lose, it doesn't take anything else away from you. Apart from the items that you chose to use in that fight. They are single-use items. It's weird as well that Path of Exile 2 starts as Dark Souls and ends as Vampire Survivors, where you just have an absolute screen full of particle effects and physically can't die. Dark Souls punishes you for giving up. It does. That's with the phrase, don't go hollow. It punishes you for stopping trying. Whereas Path of Exile 2 punishes you for failure and simply doesn't let you try again. And that's what's irritating people. It's not that they don't want to try again. It's that they can't. Like if I'm at 99% experience and I've got a tier 12, 13, 14 difficult map, I'm then thinking, I don't want to do that because failing on that would remove so much progress. So if I'm at 99% experience at the next level, I'm actually going to grind a load of really easy tier 1 maps just to get the level. Because the failure punishment is far too great. Yeah, once you have all 3 citadels, buying them, who is going to invest that much currency in getting something and then immediately dying? It's a real shame. So what do you guys think about the balance of what should the punishment for failure be? Because remember in, like if we go back to the SNES era, I know, bear with me. Go back to the SNES era. Games like The Lion King, games like Aladdin, games designed to be difficult. They were meant to be difficult, and when you died and lost all your lives, you went back to the start menu. What was the point of going back to the start menu? Well, the point was, those games were still designed with arcade mentality in mind, and they were designed to be blockbuster rental games. They weren't meant to be beaten in one sitting because you couldn't release DLC for the game at that time, and you didn't want people to feel ripped off having paid 50 or 60 quid for one game and completing it in 3 to 4 hours. So they just made the games really bloody hard. That was the plan. Make games incredibly difficult. People will feel good when they beat them because of how long it took them to do. That was very much a quantity issue. And the arcade still had the mentality of put more money in, get more game. But maybe this losing experience thing is not the only thing. Maybe this is a perfect point you just put in the chat. Maybe it is simply a smaller element of the larger thing, which is defense feels bad. There is a reason so many of the builds are all about do lots of damage and not don't die. Because do lots of damage is the best way to not die. Also, this guy saps your mana, so try and stay as close to him as I can and just keep drinking potions. I don't mind hard games. I like hard games. What I dislike is being punished for failure in a way that makes me not want to try again. I try and visualize these things because I find it very easy to visualize and understand a concept when it's visualized for me. And I explained it like this. Hopefully this will visualize it for you guys as well. Imagine a line of where you are within the game. And wherever you take on the boss is where you start on the line. Make my camera bigger for this so you understand, because this is important. Hopefully you'll understand this. Imagine you're playing a video game and you're fighting a boss, you're taking something on. It's a line of where you are. You start at a point, let's say point A. If you beat the boss, you get to point B. What happens if you fail? Well, if you fail, you should just reset to point A. The problem with punishment mechanics is when you fail, they actually set you to before A. And that's what feels bad. Knowing that failure will not only mean you have to try again, but mean that you have lost previous success. Maybe that's what it is. Talking to you guys really helps me understand how these systems all work, by the way. That's what this is. Failure is not just isolated to failing that individual moment. Failure in this game actually retroactively removes previous success. That's what it is. We've figured it out. That's what the feels bad mechanic is. And that's the easiest way to explain it. It's loss of progression. The failure... A success in this game does not add to future successes, but a failure does remove past successes. That's what it is. Got it. We've worked it out. We've been smart. We've worked it out. This is how you make... This is how we work out those sign bites, those knowledge. You genuinely help, guys. I try and... Whenever I was teaching, I used to explain to people the process of learning, the process of understanding something, the process of making drama specifically. I would say to someone... A student will come to me and say, hey, I have an idea, but I don't think it's very good. And I'd say, look, truth be told, it's probably not very good. But think about the process of creation, the process of learning, the process of education. Think about it like this. Imagine you are driving a truck, and it's a flatbed truck, and in the flatbed, it's a ton of rocks. Loads of rocks, all different sizes. Now somewhere within those rocks is a nugget of gold. Maybe a ruby, maybe a diamond. Something valuable is in there. The more raw material you bring me, the longer we can spend going through the pile of rocks to find the good stuff. No one drives up with a truck full of gold. Everyone drives up with a truck full of stuff, and some of it is good. That's what I would explain to all of my students. I'd say, look, if you bring me a 100-page script, maybe one of those pages is absolute gold. We'll take it, we'll work it, we'll workshop it, we'll make it better. You bring me 100 ideas, maybe one of them is good. The difficulty is finding the time to go through all of the other stuff. So when someone says to me, I've got an idea but it's bad, probably is. But I guarantee part of it is probably very good. We just need to interrogate it for long enough. We need to mine it for ideas. We need to understand what it is. For example, Grand Theft Auto. And this is what game testing is all about. That's what we're doing now. There are some really good ideas in Path of Exile 2. I love them. However, there are some ideas that need refinement. So, imagine Grand Theft Auto. When they were beta testing Grand Theft Auto, the original GTA, back on the PC and PlayStation, the whole being chased by the police thing was a punishment for failure. You would fail your missions, you would run someone over, you would be chased by the police. That's what you would do. And that was actually considered bad. But when they were watching the beta testers for the game, they discovered that actually the beta testers were provoking the police on purpose. And they were enjoying the process of running away from them. And the developers sat back and went, hang on, maybe the idea that we had in our minds of what this game was, maybe that's not what the game is. Maybe we've brought our playtesters a truck full of gold, and they have found gold that we weren't even looking for. Emergent gaming. That's what it was. And that's when the developers said, hey, okay, you know what? We're going to pivot our design direction, and we're going to work on this instead. That's why the most important thing that a school can do, and again, I know I rant about this a lot, but education is very important to me. The most important thing a school can and should do is instill a love of learning, a curiosity of the world. The idea of, hey, what's this? How does it work? Who was that? What did they think? Can I do this or that or the other? The point of a school is not to force rote memorization onto students. That just creates factory workers. And there's nothing wrong with working in a factory. I've worked in a factory for a long time. But it doesn't encourage the individual excellence of anyone. The point of school is to encourage curiosity. What it does right now is kill it. If you want a child to enjoy Shakespeare, let them watch a good company producing it. If you want a child to hate Shakespeare, make them read it. So this all got onto the idea of how do we encourage good ideas? How do we find good ideas? Well, we take an absolute load of bad ideas and find the gold within them. It takes a while, but it's worth it.